photographer took this beautiful sunset picture. I really love it. The light going through there and the layers is just beautiful to me. And a great way to start our day.
Okay. Move these pictures out of there right now. And it is as needful that you recognize that you made the world you see as that you recognize that you did not create yourself. The denial that you made the world you see and your claim that you created yourself are the same mistake. Nothing created, not by your creator, has any influence over you. And if you think what you have made can tell you what you see and feel, and place your faith in the effect and the ability to tell you what you see and feel, you are denying your creator and believing that you made yourself a self-made man. For if you think the world you made has power to make you what the world you made wills, you're confusing son and father, effect and source.
An effect cannot impact its cause. Whatever we make cannot have dominion over its maker. An effect always traces its origin back to its cause, which is the source or the creator. We make this world of provisional reality, our colored world that is colored by our ego, that is colored by our judgments and our thoughts. We make this world a provisional reality. It's the effect of our thoughts. What we see is the effect of our thoughts. This world we made cannot cause us to do anything. An effect cannot have control over its maker, for the effect's own existence depends solely on the constant flow of creative energy from its maker and source. Without this flow of thought energy from the effect's source, the effect would cease to be. Without the creative thoughts of the dreamer, the illusion ceases to exist. Although this world can cause us to do nothing, we can deny that we are the source of this world. We can deny it, but that's not going to make it any true. In this case, our denial of our sourceness, would make it appear that we're innocent victims of our own effect, though, which is the dream world that we perceive to be outside our own mind. By denying that we made this world, we can claim we're powerless to change our world. The world seems to now have an independent autonomy over which we have no control. The world appears to have self created itself. Big Bang, right? We've confused effect with cause, and in the confusion appear to have abdicated our creative power and handed it over to our effect. The effect, the dream that we live in, the effect, now appears to be the cause of what we, its dreamer, are.
It's really easy to get lost in the verbiage that tries to
Yeah.
explain the differences between
And
these.
the more I try and explain it, the more it feels like I'm convoluting it. So
Well, I do think that a different image might help, and that would be of a movie projector. And we project something up on a screen that's an illusion. It's not really there, the scene on the screen. It's just a picture, it's an illusion. But if we think that that's the real world, which we do, then, if you did surround picture and surround sound and all of that, then you could think easily that that's the world and it's we're in it. But when you really see that you are projecting and that that's an image there, that seems to help.
and we're not saying that the chair that I'm sitting on doesn't exist, but we are
Right.
saying that the value that I give this chair, the The fact that I sit in it every morning, the experiences that I've experienced in it, it's those things that color the reality of it. They make it what it is in my mind, which is more than just a piece of furniture.
Let's see, the Son's creations are like his Father's creations, yet in creating them, the Son does not delude himself that he, the Christ, is independent of his source. The Christ's union with it is the source of his creating. Apart from this union with the Father, the Christ has no power to create. And because we are in effect, and what the egoic mind that denies this union with the Father makes is meaningless. What the egoic mind makes changes nothing in creation. It depends entirely upon the madness of its egoic maker and cannot serve to justify the madness. Your brother, the split minded, thinks he made the world of egoic perception with you and believes it has replaced God's reality. Thus, your split minded brother denies God's creation, which is the sonship. With you, your split minded brother thinks the world of perception that he made him. Thus, your split minded brother denies he made the world of perception that you see. This is like one of those mirror things in a car where you see 15 pictures of yourself from different sides and all of this kind of stuff. And
Yes, we are our
this
split-minded brother.
confusion.
It does make it confusing because it's all of us doing the same thing, and we're all living in our own provisional realities. And that shared truth that we have is colored so much by these provisional realities that it's just hard to discern the unfiltered, objective truth because nobody has an objective view. Everybody is colored with their experiences. However, we are all part of God, and that's the Christ part of us. So when we, the Christ, create, as in when we let God create through us, when we are humble and we realize that we're a vehicle for God, we're a conduit for God to allow Him to work through us, when we choose to be guided by God, we create that. We acknowledge that the source of all power is our union with the mind of God. Knowing the Christ as everything, we extend or give everything. There's no separation, there's no filtering. We get our ego out of the way so that God can work through us. When the ego makes, it denies the reality that all creative power comes from the mind's union with God. Believing it lacks, the ego cannot extend unconditional love and always withholds something from our true higher self, our higher self's nature to its creations. This withholding makes the separation continue to appear real to the egoic mind. The ego makes only to get, since it denies its true nature as the shared oneness of everything. The ego's belief in lack prevents it from co creating within the mind of God. The ego refuses to extend its true nature since it denies it is the one self.
Yet, the truth is, you and your brother were both created by a loving Father who created you together and as one. See what proves otherwise, which is the witnesses of the false belief in the separation and self creation. You deny your whole reality of a joint oneness with God and the sonship. But grant that everything that seems to stand between you and your brother keeping you from each other and separate from your Father, you egoically made in secret, and the instant of release has come to you. Okay, let's read that again. But grant that everything that seems to stand between you and your brother, keeping you from each other and separate from your Father, you egoically made in secret, seeing it that way, and the instant of release has come to you. All its effects that you could be separate from the oneness of the mind of God are gone, because the source of this main idea, the egoic mind, has been uncovered. It is the mad idea's seeming independence of its source, your own egoic mind, that keeps you prisoner. This belief that the world you made is independent from you who sourced it is the same mistake as thinking you are independent of the source by which you were created and have never left.
Once we realize that we, at the egoic level, made up the belief in separation, we realize that this egoic belief cannot change the will of God. I have you pinned. I didn't realize I had you pinned. All right. Once we realize that we, at the egoic level, made up the belief in separation, we realize that this egoic belief could have no effect on the mind of God. Our ego can't change the will of God. Our thoughts are not going to change the universe, the will of God. God's creation, this whole sonship, all of us, remains as God created it, perfect, whole, and complete. Each of us are perfect, whole, and complete. When the ego chooses to deny the source of the sonship's true creative power, which is the power of God, the ego becomes powerless to create in the real and changeless world of eternity. Being powerless, the ego's illusion cannot change the truth that there is only a joint oneness of everything. Nothing is independent from its source, which is the one mind of God. Life is creation. Creation and making come from thought. A thought never leaves its source, which is the mind of the thinker. The effect of a thought can never be separate from the mind that thinks it. The effect is only sustained by the life force from the thinker. To sever the direct link or life force between the cause and the effect would result in the termination of the existence of the effect, like putting your hand between you and the sun.
Mm.
All it does is remove the light for a moment. And when you remove that, it comes right back. An effect cannot be autonomous from its source. Thoughts always come first and are the cause of our experiences. Our thought projections make our perception, which become our provisional reality. I can read these words. It's really hard to put it in a way that will take the thing that we see as creations that us humans make and show it in this holy creation way. These are our thought creations, our creative creations. I'm at a loss for words of the way to put it, Dad. You got anything?
Yeah, I think that it's good to realize that even though we're the two of us are reading something that has the extra bold letters for clarity, in some cases probably does not make it easy for us to just read it. It's really meant more for study, and you can spend a lot of time on just one paragraph parsing it and thinking about it from different points of view. And each person listening to this is on his own timeline, and he's got certain things on his mind and certain histories, his past that come to mind, and all of these different things generally tend to occlude to make it difficult to understand what he's saying here, because this is where the ego does its best. It screws things up. It says that the projection on the screen can change the projector. Well, it can say that all at once, but it ain't happening.
Yes.
It overcomes us sometimes more, sometimes less, depending upon where our state of mind is. So if you listen to this today, you might get 100% of it. If you listen to it tomorrow, you would only get maybe 50%. On the other hand, we're projecting with our history behind us as well. And we may not be as clear as the book would be if it was just read very plainly, kind of like a machine reading words. It's really hard to put all this stuff together. But the bigger picture is actually more simple. What happens is, because the ego screws it a lot, we're trying, by reading it, to unscrew some of it and make it a more simple picture. In doing that, sometimes the strands confuse more than what's really happening here.
Well, I think the metaphors really help, and I love the thought of the movie being projected on the screen. It's not like when the movie's over and the projector turns off, you can continue to see something on the screen. It goes back to a white screen with no discernment. But that's hard to project that into the 3D reality that we live in life, and it's hard to imagine how that projection creates the reality, because the book continues to talk about us creating reality in a way that makes it seem like we can create matter by just thinking about it's
Well,
do create things. We
with their
create
whole
lots of things as humans, lots of bubbles and different things, and it boils down to, using the creativity that flows through us in a great way. But it's not God's creation, it's still a human creation. So
So let's take the hologram. Everybody knows the hologram of Princess, whatever her name was in the movie Star Wars. That was the first time that a hologram really became visible to most people have seen that. She, when she's the princess, can't change reality. It's just there, and it's inside our own space. It's inside our own time. We are seeing this thing. But what's her name in the Star Wars thing?
Princess Leia.
Princess Leia. She can't direct or control anything outside her own projection. And yet we think, thanks to the ego, that we can control something. And we can't. We are, in effect, not the controlling source. So we have to let that stuff go, because the ego makes us think that we can control things like that. We can't, any more than we can control the virus right now. It's just there, man. And let's try and survive in the best way we know how. Every a different idea how to do that. I wish the best for everyone who's listening, and we'll see you tomorrow.